So let's start with Australia Day, a couple of weeks away from our National Day. Now, many countries have national days, and some of them go back a long way, some of them go back not that far. But Australia Day in 2024 is, of course, yes, the political back and forth. Well, at least for the people who talk about it. For the vast majority of Australians, it's a day off. For some, they take to the water. For some, they go to barbecues. For some, they celebrate the citizenship that has just been bestowed upon them. But in reality, for most Australians, it's a nice day to remind ourselves that when, particularly this year, we've seen so much of the world in an awful lot of trouble. Geez, this joint is good. Even when we had a big contentious debate last year that basically broke 60-40 and nothing bad happened as a result of the conversation. But of course, media types like Madonna King and others are writing for union superannuation news websites like the New Daily, and they're constantly demanding a solution to the Australia Day mess. Now, only they consider this to be a mess of a day. Now, I know there's the Invasion Day crowds, but that ain't the majority of Australians. The majority of Australians, if not all Australians, are completely aware of what was here prior to the English, but what is here before us all in 2024, the blank page of the history that has not been written by the people that have come to this country either very recently or in previous generations. There's an opportunity for us all to work together and to walk together with a full and absolute understanding of history and its past. Now, the plan, of course, of lefties was that eventually the National Day would move from January the 26th to whenever eventually we got a republic. But because of the failed voice referendum, the Prime Minister is nervous about going to any sort of referendum anytime soon. So this will remain the day, no matter what shops or public entities or maybe even your local council thinks about it. But it is local councils that are the ones who have decided to take it upon themselves that even when their councils can't pick up the bins, like, say, Queen Clover Moore's in Sydney, it's more important for her to have an important stance on this day. But of course, there will still be many state and federal government-sponsored events that will take place in Sydney on Australia Day for its obvious historic reasons. But for the places that don't have the obvious connection to the events of January 26th, 1788, let alone, of course, the 18 years prior and Captain Cook in 1770, there are lots of councils where, frankly, white people have taken it upon themselves to change the National Day. Now, they claim that this is all about sensitivity to the Indigenous brothers and sisters amongst us, but in honesty, most of these councils are all basically just trying to keep up with the woke brigade. But I do find things very interesting that the councils that you would think would be most at the tip of this debate, wanting to change the day because of the significant Indigenous populations in those areas, well, they're very councils that to this day, and coming up to this event this year, celebrate Australia Day. They celebrate it louder than they do in Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne or Woke Yarra Council or insert the other 80 councils who've decided to make a point about the day. I'm talking about Alice Springs and Darwin. Now, in Alice Springs, on their website right now, you can see the celebrations that are planned for that day, and most important thing that happens on that day, which is we honour the great volunteers amongst us with citizenship awards, and there are people who become Australian citizens. There's also events paid for by the council, not dripping in Australian flags, but just something fun to do. Like Alice Springs Council this year, if you want to turn up between 2 and 8 p.m, in one of the parks, they're going to have a pool party. Now, Darwin Council, if you check their website, they're quite reverential about it too, but lots of other things happen in Darwin on Australia Day. Again, the capital of the Northern Territory, the place with very significant connections to the Indigenous communities for the most obvious of reasons. What are they going to be doing on Australia Day? Well, among others, the Variety Club will be getting people to have a ute muster at the local motor racing area. And yes, there'll be 100 or 200 Australian flags. But this year, as we know, the conversation is about whether or not Woolworths, Big W or Aldi are going to sell the Australian flag made in China onto crap like singlets and thongs. Now, as I said to you last night, I don't particularly care what businesses decide to carry or not carry the merchandise. What I care about is when the companies go out of their way to tell us why they are choosing to carry, or more importantly, not to carry the merchandise. invariably, just like the councils, just like the media people, it's white people making these decisions while not giving up any of their power or prestige in the media or in the council to Indigenous people. And if, God forbid, you actually push back and you think that maybe the virtue signalling, not of the decision, but of the announcing of the decision is a problem, well, then the left have got this ready for you. This will be the clarion cry between now and Australia Day and March 26 when Media Watch comes back over there on Channel 2, which is that it's the Liberal Party that is the real cause of the culture wars that are happening right now. All of this because some MPs are out there talking with pride about our National Day. But what is really important here is that we are a very modern country that is the greatest success story in the world of immigration. Now, we can all squabble about the numbers that currently are coming into the country, the effects that all of that has, but the ethnic makeup of the country, no one has a problem with. So I had to note today that Fairfield Council in Sydney's West is not celebrating Australia Day. Instead, they are celebrating Australia Day in a bigger fashion than almost any other council in the country. And this is a council area, by the way, where 79% of people speak a language other than English at home. They, by the way, have double the Aboriginal populations of places like Double Bay and Point Papa. And this council is going to go out of its way to buy Australian flags, not 3 different versions of flags on Australia Day. It will be our national ensign. And as long as that is our national ensign, that is the flag that will be used on a day called Australia Day. And the reality is that whether Australia Day is January 26 or June 14, a national day celebrating modern Australia will always be problematic to the people of the left who want to live in the modernity that is only possible of being a first world modern country in 2024, but they want to pretend that the symbols of that modernity all must disappear. Any connection to the forefathers and mothers of our country must all, of course, be swept away, and we should all pretend that we all still live in 1788, but we've got PlayStations and the internet.